You think police only encounter things that can be explained. But what if an officer actually restrained something that had no business existing? What if these creatures don't just appear deep in remote wilderness, but outside zoo fences, near airports, and on streets where people walk their dogs at night? These clips weren't staged. They were captured by chance, then quietly vanished from the news. What you're about to see may force you to rethink the boundary between the known and what was never meant to be found. The Dayton Dogman Restraint. Do you believe that if a dogman were real, police would have captured it? On the afternoon of October 17th, 2022, in a quiet neighborhood in Dayton, Ohio, that is exactly what witnesses say happened. And it happened in broad daylight. Around 3 p.m., residents noticed a thin figure sitting motionless in the middle of the road, hunched over, head down, no shouting, just stillness. Someone called 911, fearing the person might cause an accident. When the patrol car arrived and the officers stepped out, the figure erupted off the ground instantly. The movement was wrong, fast and precise, legs bending backward, body tilting forward like an animal about to hunt. The officer hadn't finished his first sentence before moving in. Within seconds, the subject was pinned to the pavement. That's when witnesses got a clear view. The jaw opened far wider than a human jaw should. Thick, uneven, sharp teeth. The sound wasn't a scream. It was a low, choking growl that came from somewhere deep. Arms and legs twitched violently. Long nails dragged across the asphalt. Torn clothing still clung to its frame, like the final trace of a human life that once existed somewhere inside it. What chilled every witness wasn't the teeth. It was the eyes. Not empty, not confused. Tracking. Watching everyone around it with full awareness that it was being restrained. A second vehicle arrived minutes later. The creature was covered, handcuffed, and loaded into an unmarked car. No sirens, no lights. It turned off the street and disappeared. No official report filed. No local news coverage that night. Based on everything shared by those who submitted the footage, only one conclusion seems possible. It was not taken to any police station. It was transferred somewhere else, somewhere built for things that should not exist. The Alice Springs creature attack. The next clip came from a remote area near Alice Springs in Australia's Northern Territory, captured in late August 2021, just as the sun was going down. A local man was checking his grazing land alone when the creature rushed him from behind without any warning. It was nearly human height, lean but muscular, dark, hairless skin, a curved spine that arched forward as it moved. It ran upright on two legs, but kept a low center of gravity, like a predator that knew exactly how to close distance. When it reached him, it locked its legs around his waist and gripped his shoulders and pulled itself in close. The head is what viewers cannot stop watching, an elongated skull, a jaw that opened at an angle no jaw should reach, sharp teeth inches from the man's neck. It didn't bite immediately. It held him, pressed him down, as if waiting for his strength to give out. The man used both hands to push its neck back, face flushed, breath breaking, every second balanced between survival and something far worse. One slip would have ended it. Then a sound came from somewhere in the distance. The creature turned instantly. No panic, just a calculated alertness. It released its grip, stepped back once, and moved back into the brush in a clean, controlled retreat. Not fleeing, withdrawing. The man survived. The creature vanished. Only the footage remained. Old Mill Road, Denton, Texas. At 12:40 in the morning on May 5th, 2025, a 34-year-old man named Jason Miller was walking his dog along Old Mill Road outside Denton, Texas. Familiar route. Streetlights overhead. Quiet residential stretch he had walked hundreds of times. He noticed something moving low through the grass. Dark shape, close to the ground. He assumed it was a stray dog, maybe an injured raccoon. When he switched on his phone flashlight, the shape stopped instantly. It was crawling, both arms and both legs, back arched high, neck pulled inward. The arms were too long for the body, hands spread wide, fingers gripping the grass. Long black hair hung over most of its face, with one detail that stayed with everyone who watched the footage. A perfectly straight part down the exact center of the scalp. It didn't growl. It didn't charge. It moved forward slowly, measuring the distance between them with each movement. Jason's dog began whining and pulling backward. Jason stepped back too, but kept filming. After several seconds, the creature tilted its head slightly, then turned and crawled back into the darkness behind the brush without a sound. Nothing left behind, no tracks, no evidence anything had been there at all. The video was posted online with one question in the caption: "What creature stalks the night like this?" Nobody has a real answer, and that might be the most honest thing about this case. The Elmendorf Chupacabra case. In July 2010, deputies outside Elmendorf responded to repeated calls from residents who claimed a strange, hairless creature had been stalking properties at night, killing chickens and moving in a way witnesses described as unnervingly human. When one local woman reported the animal approaching her porch in broad daylight, law enforcement took the situation seriously enough to patrol the area. Days later, a deputy confirmed a similar animal had been spotted near a rural road.
So I pulled over, pulled it off the road, and that was the animal.
And was eventually shot after concerns grew about public safety. The attention-grabbing detail was its appearance. The creature had bluish-gray skin, almost no fur, a long snout, and unusually large teeth that gave it a skeletal look. Photos quickly spread online, and many immediately labeled it a modern-day chupacabra. Fun fact that fueled even more debate is that this wasn't the first time Texas deputies had encountered unexplained canids. Reports from nearby counties described nearly identical animals captured on game cameras in the same period. DNA testing later conducted by wildlife experts revealed the animal was closely related to a coyote, likely suffering from severe mange, a skin disease that causes hair loss and thickened skin.
But when I did one of the DNAs, I scalpeled here, and it was just pink fresh meat.
Still, some investigators pointed out behavior that didn't fully match typical coyotes, including daytime appearances and lack of fear toward humans. One theory that continues to circulate is that environmental pressures may be changing animal behavior faster than science can currently explain, leaving officers at the front line of encounters that blur the line between known species and something far more unsettling. The Fresno Nightcrawler. Late one night in March 2007, a homeowner in Fresno contacted local authorities after reviewing his outdoor security footage and spotting something that didn't resemble any known animal. The video showed a small, pale figure moving across his yard with what looked like only 2 long legs and no visible upper body. It walked with a smooth, almost gliding motion, each step deliberate, as if aware of its surroundings.
What a Fresno Nightcrawler is supposed to look like, and then seeing this spitting image between what we saw on the web and what we had on the camera.
When officers examined the footage, they reportedly found no evidence of tampering, wires, or puppetry, and the timestamps aligned perfectly with other neighborhood recordings from that night. What grabbed attention immediately was the creature's proportions. Something that still puzzles video analysts today is how the figure's shadow matched its movement perfectly, suggesting it was physically present rather than digitally altered. The stride length also remained consistent with natural walking mechanics, something extremely difficult to fake convincingly at the time. A similar figure later appeared on a trail camera near Yosemite National Park in 2011, sparking renewed discussion among investigators. Theories ranged from a person in costume to a camera illusion caused by lighting angles, yet no one ever came forward to claim responsibility. Some officers quietly admitted the footage was one of the few cases where they couldn't confidently assign a known explanation. The Amarillo Zoo upright canine. In May 2022, officials in Amarillo released a late-night security image that immediately sparked debate across law enforcement circles and online communities.
He caught on camera a mystery in Texas. What is this strange figure that people are trying to figure out?
The photo, taken just after 1 a.m. outside the Amarillo Zoo perimeter fence, showed a strange figure walking upright on 2 legs, casting a shadow that didn't quite match any known animal in the region. Because the location bordered public areas, city authorities reviewed the footage carefully to rule out a potential trespasser or escaped animal. What grabbed attention fast was the creature's posture. The figure appeared slender, with elongated limbs and a narrow torso, moving calmly rather than in a startled or hurried way. Fun fact that added to the mystery is that zoo officials confirmed no animals had escaped and no damage was found along the fence line, suggesting whatever appeared on camera never tried to enter the enclosure.
It was spotted at around 1 a.m. in May 21st. Apparently there was no sign of entry into the zoo. No animals or people were harmed.
Local officers who examined the image publicly admitted they could not immediately classify the figure as human, canine, or wildlife. Theories spread quickly. Some believed it was a person walking a dog whose body aligned oddly with the camera angle, while others suggested a coyote briefly balancing upright mid-step. Still, a few investigators noted the stride length and arm positioning looked unusually symmetrical for an animal. The detail that continues to intrigue observers is how the figure seemed aware of the camera's direction yet never turned its head, as if confident it wouldn't be recognized, leaving officials with a simple but haunting question. Why did something walk so close to a public zoo in the middle of the night without leaving a single trace behind? The Jetpack Man sightings. Between August 2020 and late 2021, something unexplained kept appearing in restricted airspace near Los Angeles International Airport.
Is this mysterious jetpack flyer at it again?
Possible jetpack man in sight.
And this time, it wasn't just civilians reporting it. Multiple commercial airline pilots radioed air traffic control after spotting what they described as a human-shaped figure flying at nearly 3,000 feet, dangerously close to incoming aircraft. The sightings triggered immediate alerts, prompting both federal authorities and local law enforcement to investigate. Officers from nearby jurisdictions, including aerial patrol units, conducted sweeps of the area but found no drone debris, no launch site, and no suspect. What makes this case especially gripping is how consistent the descriptions were. Pilots from different airlines, on separate nights, reported seeing a dark, humanoid silhouette with what looked like a pack on its back, moving steadily rather than falling or drifting.
Possible jetpack man in sight.
Was he off to your left or right, sir?
Right wing, head out.
Fun fact that still puzzles aviation experts is that no commercially available jetpack can sustain stable flight at that altitude for extended periods, especially without a visible exhaust trail or rapid descent afterward. One theory suggested it might have been a sophisticated drone designed to resemble a person.
But as we got closer, we realized it was too small, so we thought maybe it was a drone or balloons or something like that.
Yet radar data didn't support standard drone patterns. Another idea whispered among investigators was psychological suggestion, but audio recordings confirm pilots described the figure before hearing other reports. The most chilling part remains this. Whoever, or whatever, was up there understood controlled airspace well enough to appear briefly, then vanish before patrol units could close in, leaving officers with one unsettling question: why fly so close, yet never be caught? The Montana Trail Camera Wolf. During the winter months of 2019, a trail camera image from a remote property in Montana quickly made its way to local authorities after residents claimed it showed an animal that did not match any known species in the region. The photo captured what appeared to be a massive wolf-like creature standing unusually upright on its hind legs, its front limbs hanging forward in a posture that looked almost human. Because the property bordered protected wildlife zones, state officers were contacted to determine whether a dangerous or unknown animal was roaming nearby communities. What immediately drew attention was the creature's proportions. Wildlife officers noted that even large gray wolves do not naturally maintain balance on two legs for more than a second or two. Yet this figure appeared fully supported and stable. Fun fact that fueled public debate is how biologists later confirmed the camera had not malfunctioned, and the timestamp matched active wildlife movement recorded in the area that same night. No additional tracks or physical evidence were found during ground searches conducted shortly after. One popular theory suggests the angle of the camera distorted depth perception, making a normal wolf appear unusually tall. Others believe the animal may have been mid-motion, captured at a rare upright moment. Still, some officers admitted privately that the limb length and posture seemed inconsistent with known wolf anatomy. The Chicago Mothman sightings. Beginning in 2017, residents across parts of Chicago started reporting something unusual in the night sky. a large, dark-winged figure described as human-shaped but far bigger than any known bird. What pushed the case into serious territory was that several witnesses stated they contacted local authorities after feeling threatened or startled, especially when sightings occurred near roads, parks, and residential buildings. While officers often arrived after the figure had vanished, dispatch records confirm multiple calls describing the same details: glowing red or orange eyes, silent movement, and wings stretching wider than a small car. One attention-grabbing detail repeated by witnesses was how the figure didn't flap its wings like a bird. Instead, it glided smoothly between buildings or over trees, sometimes changing direction abruptly without losing altitude.
I could see it wasn't a man, that it looked more like a bird. Instead of arms, they were like wings.
Fun fact that sparked debate among aviation observers is that large birds native to Illinois, including herons and cranes, cannot perform tight aerial turns at low altitude without noticeable wing motion. Yet several reports described exactly that. Theories quickly spread. Some investigators suggested misidentified owls under urban lighting conditions, while others pointed to drone technology or mass suggestion fueled by social media. Still, a few retired officers interviewed later admitted the consistency of witness descriptions made the calls hard to dismiss entirely. The most unsettling part remains this: sightings clustered around the same areas over multiple years, raising one question that still lingers among those who took the reports. If it was only misidentification, why did so many people describe the exact same silent figure watching from above? The Bishopville Lizard Man. Late one summer night in 2008, deputies in Lee County near Bishopville responded to reports that quickly revived one of the region's strangest legends. A local resident called authorities after discovering his vehicle had been heavily scratched overnight while parked near his home. What caught officers' attention wasn't just the damage, but the pattern. The marks appeared unusually deep, spaced apart in a way that didn't match typical animal claws or human tools. Nearby, witnesses reported seeing a large figure moving quickly toward the tree line just before midnight. What made this case gripping for investigators was how consistent the descriptions were. Residents claimed the figure stood over 6 feet tall, with reddish eyes reflecting light and scaled-looking skin visible under porch lamps. Fun fact that added credibility at the time is that deputies documented the scene with photographs and confirmed there were no footprints matching known wildlife in the immediate area. The scratches themselves were measured and reportedly required significant force, far more than raccoons or stray dogs could produce. Wildlife experts later suggested a bear or large feral animal might explain the damage, yet no bear sightings were reported within miles of the neighborhood. One theory that circulated quietly among locals was that the creature seemed less interested in entering homes and more focused on observing human spaces, almost testing boundaries before retreating. Even today, officers who handled the case admit one detail remains hard to dismiss. Whatever caused the damage moved through residential streets without triggering dogs or alarms, suggesting it was either incredibly stealthy or already familiar with the area. The Cerro Azul creature. In September 2009, authorities near Cerro Azul were drawn into a case that quickly gained international attention after a group of teenagers reported discovering the remains of a strange creature near a cave system outside the city. According to their statements, they first encountered the living animal near a shallow creek before panic set in. Fearing it might attack, they threw rocks until it stopped moving. When police later arrived to secure the area, photographs taken at the scene showed a pale, hairless body with elongated limbs, a narrow head, and unusually long fingers that didn't resemble typical wildlife in the region. The detail that immediately captured public attention was the creature's facial structure. Fun fact that fueled speculation is how the eye placement and jawline looked oddly human-like in early images, prompting theories ranging from unknown species to genetic mutation. Officers reportedly treated the site seriously at first, documenting the remains before wildlife authorities stepped in for analysis. Within days, biologists suggested the body likely belonged to a sloth or other small mammal in advanced decomposition, which can drastically distort appearance. Still, some investigators pointed out how decomposition alone rarely explains limb proportions seen in the photos. Theories continue to circulate, including environmental disease affecting wildlife or rare congenital deformities. The Ohio zombie raccoon incidents. Calls began pouring into police departments across Ohio in the fall of 2015, with residents describing raccoons behaving in ways that sounded more like scenes from a horror movie than routine wildlife encounters. Residents described raccoons wandering in broad daylight, baring their teeth, standing upright on their hind legs for extended periods, and then suddenly collapsing as if lifeless, only to rise again moments later. In areas around Youngstown, officers were dispatched repeatedly after citizens feared the animals were rabid or dangerously aggressive.
The Ohio Department of Natural Resources believes the animals have been infected with distemper. The disease can cause digestive problems.
The attention-grabbing detail officers noted was how these raccoons showed no fear of humans, often approaching porches, sidewalks, and even patrol vehicles. Fun fact that puzzled many residents is that raccoons are typically nocturnal and avoid human contact, making daytime appearances alone highly unusual. Body camera notes from responding officers described animals appearing disoriented, teeth exposed, and movements that looked almost mechanical rather than natural. Wildlife officials later confirmed the cause as canine distemper, a virus that affects neurological function, leading to confusion, loss of coordination, and the eerie standing behavior that frightened so many witnesses. Still, some officers admitted privately that seeing multiple animals move this way within the same week felt deeply unsettling, especially when calls came from different neighborhoods describing identical symptoms. One theory discussed among investigators was how urban expansion may be increasing disease transmission among wildlife, pushing more infected animals into human spaces. What made this case linger in public memory wasn't just the illness itself, but how quickly ordinary creatures could appear almost unrecognizable, reminding officers that sometimes the most disturbing encounters don't come from myths, but from nature, untheater stress. Skinwalker Ranch incidents. Throughout the early 2000s into the late 20-teens, deputies in Uintah County, Utah, responded to a steady stream of calls from ranchers and residents living near the area widely known as Skinwalker Ranch. While many reports involved routine concerns like trespassing or wildlife, several logged incidents described figures or animals behaving in ways officers struggled to categorize. In more than one case, callers reported large creatures resembling wolves seen walking unusually close to homes without reacting to vehicle lights or human noise. When patrol units arrived, they often found disturbed ground, damaged fencing, or livestock, showing signs of sudden agitation, yet no clear predator tracks. One attention-grabbing detail repeated in multiple deputy notes was how animals on nearby properties reportedly refused to move toward certain areas of open land, even when herded. Fun fact that adds to the mystery is that motion-triggered cameras sometimes captured unexplained light sources moving low across fields without matching vehicle routes or aircraft paths. While most officers leaned toward natural explanations like predators, lighting illusions, or distant vehicles, a few admitted privately that the consistency of descriptions from unrelated callers made the reports difficult to ignore. Theories range widely. Some investigators suggest heightened awareness caused by the ranch's reputation may influence perception, while others believe unusual electromagnetic conditions in the area could affect both equipment and animal behavior. The Beast of Dartmoor sightings. Throughout the early 21st century, officers from Devon and Cornwall Police continued receiving reports from farmers across the Dartmoor region of southwestern England, describing livestock deaths that didn't match known predator patterns. Sheep were found with precise injuries, minimal consumption of meat, and no clear tracks left behind. What drew police attention was how often these incidents occurred near remote roads or open moorland, where witnesses later described seeing a large, shadowy feline figure moving low to the ground before disappearing into the fog. One gripping detail officers documented was how several drivers reported nearly colliding with what they believed to be a Black Panther-like animal crossing rural roads at night.
have been identified by London Zoo as almost certainly a black panther.
Fun fact that still fuels debate is that Britain officially has no native big cats capable of surviving in the wild. Yet hair samples collected over the years have occasionally produced inconclusive or non-local DNA results. Patrol officers admitted the size estimates given by witnesses, often compared to large dogs or small lions, were unusually consistent across unrelated reports. Wildlife experts suggest escaped exotic pets from decades ago could explain rare sightings, while skeptics point to misidentified dogs under low light. Still, some investigators noted how the precision of livestock injuries suggested a predator accustomed to stealth rather than scavenging. What keeps this case alive is how sightings persist across decades, raising a quiet question among officers familiar with the moors. If no breeding population exists, why do the reports never fully stop? And why do they always come from the same isolated stretches of land? Tap the card on screen, subscribe, and tell me what you believe.